Episode number 2. Hello, friends. This is your first time listening. Welcome. My name is Stephen Lutman. This is the Expected Returns podcast. Thanks for checking it out. If you're someone who happened to make it through episode number 1 and came back, well, God bless you, because that was not a particularly easy listening experience. Chalk it up to first episode jitters, but I do apologize for shouting at you at certain points throughout the episode. To take you behind the curtain a little bit, before hitting publish, I listened back to the episode on my desktop speakers, and at that point it sounded fairly pure. Granted, your boy has a nice setup here with the Bose speakers, no big deal, but listening back on my cell phone during the drive home was a bit rough. That was a bit rough. So thanks for sticking with me. This is very much a work in progress. However, I'm confident that today's episode will be better than number 1, and no doubt number 3 will be better than today. Before we jump into a few news items, a few things I want to plug real quick. Our 2021 Year in Review newsletter went out to subscribers this morning. I'd say it's the most popular piece of content we put out during the year. A brief look back and glimpse forward, along with some fun predictions for the year. This can be had for free at sjlincoln.com/newsletter, or if you want all future newsletters sent directly to you when they come out, that is sjlincoln.com/join. Again, sjlincoln.com/newsletter or sjlincoln.com/join. Next, I'll be helping out at the Regional Food Bank in Latham Thursday, January 6th. That's going to be 6:30 in the evening to 8. There are spots available, so if you're interested and want to join, reach out to me and I'll make sure to get you the link to sign up. There may or may not be another pod episode before then, so this is basically the announcement and reminder all at the same time. So 6:30, Regional Food Bank on the 6th. Reach out to me. Don't just show up. You actually need to register. So hopefully to see a few of you there. And finally, there will be a mailbag episode. This is going to be episode number 3. So it's going to be driven primarily by your questions. So make sure to get those in. Email them over to me, steven@sjlincoln.com. DM them over on Instagram. Get them to me however you can. But again, episode number 3 is going to be a mailbag episode. So real estate, finance, any piece of advice you want. Probably not relationships. We'll skip that. But anything else, send me your questions. And hopefully number 3 will be a lot of fun. So I look forward to that. So where I'd like to start is with December's Federal Reserve meeting and their decision to start hiking interest rates. Some of you out there might be visual learners. Others may prefer actively doing a task when developing a skill. I'm big into analogies, so that's the direction we're going to go for a minute. If you're a single person, I think this should resonate pretty well, but if not, just go ahead and think back to an earlier stage in your life for a minute. Picture you're out in a social setting, let's say a gym or a coffee shop, and just by chance happen to come into contact with someone you think could be just the absolute perfect match for you. They're wearing a t-shirt from that band that you love, or they're working on a spreadsheet using your favorite Excel function. Whatever it is, it's now or never, and you decide to strike up a conversation with this person. There are 3 very unique, distinct ways this scenario plays out. The first of which is that you absolutely knock it out of the park. All of your jokes are landing, there's witty banter back and forth, and just overall great chemistry. The second option is that it's an absolute disaster. They avoid eye contact, only give one-word answers. You start sweating a lot, and it's just not working out. So 2 completely different outcomes, right? But yet each can be viewed as a success in that you leave with confidence knowing either you got their number and you're going to be looking to schedule a meetup, or you completely blew it and it's just time to move on. With these first 2 outcomes, the confidence comes from the clarity you obtained in whichever the eventual result was. The third option, on the other hand, is what you want to try to avoid at all costs, and we'll call this the Land of Ambiguity. The other person responds to questions thoughtfully, but never asks about you. They make eye contact, but also keep checking their phone. Is this person interested? Maybe. How should you proceed? You don't know. Just like you hate uncertainty in the dating world, so do financial markets when it comes to monetary policy. For the purposes of this conversation, we'll want to define why it is that the Federal Reserve is important. The Fed is tasked with two policy mandates: promote maximum employment and stable prices. The tricky part is encouraging one oftentimes has an adverse effect on the other. Lower rates, for example, encourage more spending by business and consumers. This in theory requires more workers to fulfill the demand, which accomplishes the goal of maximum employment. With more demand, however, oftentimes comes inflation, hurting the prospect of stable prices. Vice versa, higher rates have a history of maintaining stable prices, but in return dampens demand, punishing employers' ability to hire future workers. Anyone that's been to a grocery store or filled up at the gas tank recently knows prices have been climbing, in some cases at an alarming rate. Earlier points this year, Chairman Powell described these increases as transitory, meaning short-term, and would resolve themselves without needing intervention. The past few weeks his tone has changed, and now he acknowledges underlying causes may be more long-term in nature. The confusion markets were faced with is, what will corrective measures look like? Rate hikes weren't expected until 2023, and quantitative easing was already accelerated at the last meeting. Heading into December's announcement, there were a lot of questions needing to be answered, and here's what they ultimately came up with. After 2 years of maintaining a rate near zero, the Fed reversed course and announced 3 planned rate hikes, starting in spring 2022. Preceding that, the current bond purchasing program would be wrapped up in full. The reaction to this news was interesting. The following day, stocks sold off, although it's difficult to pinpoint what portion of that was Omicron versus interest rate news. Bond yields, on the other hand, traded lower the few days following, only then to rally a smidge above levels prior to the Fed's meeting. Essentially, the market absorbed the new information and a few days later said, yeah, no big deal, we kind of expected this. That was pretty dry and certainly a lot of mumbo jumbo in there. So next we'll talk about a few practical steps that you and I as individuals can take based on this information. But first, a quick word from today's show sponsor. Currently, there are thousands of real estate agents competing for your attention. Make sure that they earn your business. Don't hire the first person you speak with. Instead, interview multiple agents until you find the best fit. Ask about their skill set and how specifically they can help you achieve your goal. With close to a decade's worth of experience as a real estate investor, and as the person who's responsible for what goes on here at SJ Lincoln Realty, I very much want to be one of those agents that you interview. To start the conversation, email steven@sjlincoln.com or visit sjlincoln.com/book-a-call. Again, steven@sjlincoln.com or sjlincoln.com/book-a-call. Whether you're interested in selling a single-family home in Glens Falls or want to learn what owning an apartment building in Albany would look like. Let's talk. steven@sjlincoln.com or sjlincoln.com/book-a-call. And now, back to the show. So it's one thing to know what's going on in the world, but how can we better position ourselves with this new information? First, let's remember what it is we're talking about. When you hear that the Fed is raising interest rates, what that's referring to is the federal funds rate, a very short-term borrowing rate that banks use to lend excess reserves to each other overnight. The initial response is to think mortgages and auto loans are about to become more expensive. However, it's actually going to be the shorter-term financial products that are impacted most directly. If you're someone who carries a credit card balance, you can expect those rates to increase. This isn't financial advice, but personally, I'd be looking to move that debt over to some form of either debt consolidation or balance transfer, where the rate may be in the high single digits, but will be substantially better than trying to pay it down at what revolving rates could look like near term. As an example, $10,000 paid over 2 years will cost you about $750 worth of interest at a 7% interest rate, versus at 22%, which is common for credit cards today, you're close to $2,500 worth of interest. So that's meaningful savings just by doing a little bit of legwork on your end. For folks concerned about rising prices eroding their bond returns, you could look at inflationary index product like TIPS, Treasury Inflationary Protected Securities, which adjust over time based on the CPI. And lastly, if you're someone who hasn't yet refinanced their mortgage during the past, say 5 years or so, and you don't have plans to relocate in the immediate future, I'd encourage you to get on the phone with your lender and just see what's available to you. This isn't an urgent assignment. It's possible mortgage rates remain neutral heading into Q1. It's just hard to imagine, given where we appear to be headed, that mortgage rates could move considerably lower from where they are today. That will wrap episode number 2. Check out the 2021 year in review, sjlincoln.com/newsletter. If you want to join for the January 6th food bank meetup, reach out to me and I'll be sure to get you the sign up link. If you want to connect with me directly, the best way to do so is steven@sjlincoln.com. And don't forget, number 3 will be a mailbag episode. That's going to be in the new year. You guys drive the bus on this, so send me your fun topics for conversation, email or direct message on Instagram, and hopefully we can all get a little bit smarter. Finally, I'll wrap with this. Some of you listening may have had amazing things happen in 2021. For most, it was more of a meh, but the unfortunate truth is for far too many, it was a difficult or even in some cases painful year to get through. Whatever group you fall into, my hope is that you found some form of enjoyment this holiday season and that the new year brings new opportunities to build and improve upon everything you've been working on in the past. Let's all make good decisions the next few days, and I will be back to talk with you in 2022.